Everyone, welcome back. We've got a rescue video for you today, but the technique we're going to look at here would be equally applicable for rope access rigging, where we are using, as you probably guessed it here, the Arizona Vortex. I've certainly used this technique in both situations on rescue training programs many times over the years, but also rigging the Vortex in rope access type environments for doing jobs. What we're going to look at here is a neat little detail trick for making the vortex very stable and giving us more room to move potentially, and effectively negating the need for a whole lot of guy lines and different rigging to hold the frame down. It works wherever we have an object. In this case, it's going to be this tree behind me, where we can effectively square, lash, and frap a foot, usually the raptor foot like we see here, but it'll likewise work with the flat articulated Omni foot on the Vortex, to basically lock that foot into position onto the object. So either a tree or a structural element like a steel beam, certainly scaffolding I've done this on in the past, anywhere where we can lock that foot in and then basically tie it in position using our nylon webbing like this here is going to enable us to lock that frame down with virtually no other guying, because of course once we put the imposed load on and create the resultant, that's what's going to hold the frame down. So it's a neat trick, it's a huge time saver, and it makes the frame very stable and gives us some nice working features that we'll have a look at in a moment in some images. But it's not something everyone knows how to do, and there's a few little detail things in here I want to point out to make it super solid and very stable, so you can use this in the field. Of course, it's going to use this stuff here, okay? So there's a couple of little detail points we want to look at with our webbing, and then I'm going to show you how to do this, square lashing and frapping this raptor foot to this tree. All right, so with the webbing I'm going to use for my lashing and frapping here, this is a 5 meter length of Sterling Tech tape that I've got here. 5 meters is probably one of the most standard lengths we tend to use. It's pretty ideal. A couple little detail things in here, one of which is the webbing is hot knifed off on both ends on 45 degrees, not flat. Seems like the tiniest little irrelevant detail, but even things like that, it actually makes it easier when we're trying to poke the webbing through, in this case, the rigging holes on the end of the raptor foot, but simply tying a overhand bend, or otherwise known as a tape knot or a water knot, whichever one you like, just simply doing that makes it easier, especially if you're trying to do it with gloves and you're wet and trying to do it in the rain. So cutting on the 45, neat technique there. And if I undo my daisy chain here of webbing, the other little thing that we've got here in the middle is a center marker just there. That helps us simply find the middle so we can daisy the web back up. But that's going to aid me in a moment when I'm doing my square lash, because I'm going to start from the middle rather than the end. It's difficult trying to get the lash and frap tight when we start from the end of the webbing, whereas if we start from the middle, it's much easier. So having that center marker on the web just aids us in trying to find the middle when we're in a hurry or in the rain or whatever. All right, so what I'm going to do here now is position this leg of the Vortex up against this tree just here and use the webbing to lash and frap it into position. Why would I even do that, I hear you ask? For many of you who are familiar with the Vortex, you think, well, surely the feet all go on the ground and we guide the frame down. As you can see in these images that we're looking at now, by elevating the back leg, it makes the frame much more stable. It gives us a bigger footprint and effectively gives us a large working space or area of real estate behind the leading edge of the frame so that we can maneuver the litter. So there's a rack of reasons why, if we can do this, it's a super time saver, but actually makes life easier, maneuvering the litter, moving around under the frame, and also makes it more stable. Okay, so with my team members, I've got the Vortex supported, okay, and we've got the back leg here with the raptor foot pushed up, in this case, against this eucalyptus here. I'm going to start the square lash to lock it in position by getting one end of my webbing like so. I'm going to go through the forwards hole, or I guess the hole furthest away from the tree in this instance, very deliberately, because what I'm going to create is a triangle of webbing here in a moment. So it's going to look like this. I'm going to poke that right through, and of course, bring it through until the middle marker, which I pointed out earlier, is right there. So I know I'm roughly in the middle of the webbing. Then what we're going to do is reach around, bring that webbing around the back of the object, like so. So it comes out in front, and I'm going to thread this in each direction back through that same hole 2, 3, 4, 5 times, whatever, until I've got a solid triangle of webbing. So I'm going to do that now. What we're going to do now that I've gone through there 3 or 4 times, it's created this quite solid triangle of webbing there, and that's our version, I guess, of a square lash. I'm sure it's not absolutely correct in timber lashing terminology, but it's as near as damn it in this instance here. To make it tight though, what we're going to do is bring the webbing around underneath here, or you can go over the top, and I'm now going to cross the webbing over the triangle like this, and likewise coming around under and pulling it as tight as I can get it. I'm going to do that 3 or 4 times. The action of wrapping around the triangle and pulling in is using the effect that we're all very familiar with, whereby if we take a horizontal element of material and we bend it perpendicular in the middle, it creates significantly greater end anchor loading. So something we need to be aware of and can be dangerous in highline rigging. In this instance here, that bending or vectoring motion there is what's going to make this triangle of webbing so tight in here. So here I go, I'm going to wrap it around, and again, pulling it in tight. One more over the top there. And to tie the frapping off, I don't need any particularly special bend. I'm just literally going to do left over right, right over left, which of course is a square knot, or otherwise known as a square bend, or otherwise known as a reef knot. So that's literally all we need. That gives us a super solid, secure fixture onto that anchor point there, and we're basically good to go. If there was any doubt about this object here, I may well put a webbing anchor like a Wrap 3 Pull 2 on there and do tension back ties if I was worried about any forwards loading on the frame here. If we're rigging it simply as a high directional, all that's doing is elevating and holding the back foot up. So there we go. There's our modified square lash and frap for locking down a raptor foot onto a either natural or artificial object.